You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, welcome back to our second half of our show of Ask the Master Auto Technician. I am interviewing Rob Lapham, who's running for U.S. Congress, District 2, robforcongress.org. That's ROBFORCONGRESS. I can't spell Congress.org. Give them, you can find more about him. But Rob, what is on your mind this week as you're campaigning around Northwest Florida, all the way from Bay County down to Ocala, about running for Congress?
Well, James, good morning.
Good morning.
One of the fun things I have had over the past several weeks, which has finally come to fruition, is transitioning from identifying everything that is wrong with our federal government, or at least many issues that need correction, and shifting to the what follows a statement of, if elected, I will. If elected, I will sponsor this. I will work tirelessly for that. And I finally got it all together and put it up on my website, robforcongress.org.
Good.
So now anyone can see, and I make the case for what I do to downsize the U.S. military, to shut down the National Security Agency, to end drug prohibition, to eliminate the federal income tax, to localize education, replace privileged government positions with pensions, with Social Security.
Right.
There's a bunch of them. So I've been having a lot of fun doing that, and I finally completed it this morning and updated the website.
And that's at Rob for Congress. So if people catch this and want to know more about what you would do in office and what you're promising to do and what you're working to do, just go to robforcongress.org. Now, I just got off the phone. I had Larry Walters on here from the Fair Tax Operation. He says the biggest group of people that are upset about the fair tax, he said, are the libertarians. They don't want any tax at all. And, of course, I think taxation is theft. And I would love to see all taxes taken care of, but you can't go cold turkey. It's kind of like a junkie taking them off the drugs. They'll go into to withdrawals, and they will collapse and die. And the same thing would happen to America. We're going to have to wean them off this this income tax we got. So what would you recommend to take its place as a libertarian?
Well, I agree pretty much with Larry, and also our presidential candidate, Governor Gary Johnson, has stated publicly that he sees the fair tax as the platform, as the environment, as we should be going in that direction. I don't know that Governor Johnson agrees 100% with everything in the fair tax, but he's certainly sympathetic to that approach and that framework. The libertarians who do not like the fair tax or who do not like any tax tend to be, I would call them purists. If you are a theoretical 100% pure libertarian, not only do you have no tax, you could arguably have no government. There would be no national borders because a pure libertarian theory would say that. And most libertarians, in my opinion, I am more of a pragmatic libertarian.
Correct.
I believe in libertarian objectives, but frankly, first of all, we have a U.S. Constitution, and that supersedes all. That requires us, for example, to raise the troops and perform certain limited functions by the federal government. So I do not agree with those individuals who are libertarians who oppose the fair tax.
Well, with the fair tax, I've had a lot of libertarians say it's going to be a fair tax is going to be like a value-added tax where we add that on top of our income tax. And I say, if I'm not mistaken, the fair tax absolves the income tax department. You don't have withholding tax taken out of. It's a consumption tax, just like if you buy gasoline. That's a consumption tax when you're buying that federal road tax. That's a consumption tax. You're going to put your car on the road. It's not like farm use fuel you're buying to put on your tractor where you pay taxes on that to work on your farm. That's tax exempt. But if you're buying gasoline and it's got road taxes on it for commercial use, you're paying to use on the road. And that's the same thing the fair tax is, if I'm not mistaken, is if you buy something, you pay a tax on it. If you don't want to buy it, you don't pay a tax on it. Is there any...
Exactly correct. Okay. And that the fair tax replaces the federal income tax. It provides the ability to get rid of, to dissolve, to eliminate, to end the IRS. We don't need the IRS anymore
Yes.
with a fair tax or with a consumption tax. The tax is collected the same way as state sales taxes are collected today, and you don't need a federal agency to be monitoring personal information of all individuals.
Okay.
You don't care what an individual's personal situation is. They're all paying the same tax rate, with one exception, and that is an exception is made for in the fair tax for people who live at or below the poverty level, and this is a means-tested determination. Roughly 14% of the total population of the United States is below the poverty level. They would be exempted from paying that tax. But the other 84% of us would be paying that tax.
How would they be exempted if they're having to pay taxes when they purchase things just like everybody else? I mean, are they going to carry a card around that says, I'm exempt from tax? Don't they have a...
Sure. Yeah, you would. It would be very much like the current EBT card, which allows people to purchase food. It's the food stamp analogy.
Okay.
So once you have passed your means test and become entitled to be exempted from these, and let's call them sales taxes because everybody knows what a sales tax is. So you present your card at checkout, and you are exempted from the tax. And those privileged people, I would say, that these people who are the 14% at or below the poverty line, they do need to be checked upon to make sure that they are not providing incorrect information, that they truly are below the poverty line. But the system is in place now. It's been in place for years, and anybody in Florida who knows anybody who used to be on food stamps that now carries an EBT card, same kind of thing. And will there be fraud? Sure. Folks are always trying to go ahead and obtain benefits they're not entitled to. But it is far easier to detect fraud on an EBT card than it is to go through the very complex 76,000-page Internal Revenue Code that nobody ever read. And there's so many loopholes and special interest group. It's just impossible to administer the current tax code.
And that's something I had someone say, well, we really need to, we don't need the fair tax because it's undue burden on the poor people out there because a larger percentage of their pay would go towards taxes. But if they carry a card around that says, hey, I'm exempt from this, here's my card, swipe my card, take the taxes off, that goes that way right there. That is a way to help them have more money in their pocket. One, they get to take all their pay home. Two, and the best part about it is, three, is they don't have to worry about making a tax preparation by April 15th every year, because that takes a lot of money, believe it or not. If you have a business or you're a private household and you don't do a short form, you're talking about having to pay someone to do it. And there's businesses that have sprung up on every corner in the month of March, April, and May just to be able to do taxes for people.
You bet. In fact, that's evidenced by you see all those folks who are wearing Lady Liberty gowns and
isn't that an oxymoron? Liberty tax. I'm going. What is there about liberty about tax?
I think we have to be careful there. I think there is an actual company called Liberty Tax Service.
Well, never mind. But I was just thinking.
It is significant that obviously it's big business. Otherwise, they wouldn't have all the promotion and all the tax organizations that spring up. All of that would disappear with implementation of a fair tax. Because there would be no income tax.
Okay, so that would handle how, so everyone says, well, if we don't have any taxes, how will we build my roads? Well, the roads would still be built because I think we would probably bring in, if someone was talking about it, right, we'd actually bring more into the coffers, into the U.S. Treasury than we are now, because right now the largest collectors of tax are small businesses, such as myself. We are the largest collectors of tax. Every month every day we collect sales tax from customers and we send it to the state of Florida. So we've already got that system set in place, and so what we end up doing is, instead of it being 7 or 8%, it would probably be around 23, 24%. Is that what it would be, Rob? Is that what they're trying with state and federal?
The estimates I have, yes, 23% sounds like a right number. And that's the only tax you have. You don't have any other tax you have no tax on your income.
That's it. And that's pretty impressive right there. There'd be more money in my pocket going home, and I could actually hire more people. I don't hire as much people. I could hire 2 more people right now, but I won't, because if I did, my tax liability reasons would be off the scale, and I'd be out of balance, and I wouldn't make as much money, and I wouldn't be able to keep my doors open, and it's what we call slowly circling the drain in business, and I can't afford that. So that's why I won't hire any more people. But if we got rid of the infernal revenues code that I have right now. My wife was going to say something.
I have a question.
Sure.
Since the IRS was established by a constitutional amendment, are we going to have to do away with it with a constitutional amendment?
I don't know.
You know, there's 2 answers to that. Yes and no. But as far as yes, you know, the amendment is there, and it's generally accepted law. Amendment number 16 is valid. On the no side, it is arguable that 3/4 of the states never approved it.
Right.
When it's necessary, not just for Congress to approve by 2/3, but for the states to approve by 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 questionable state votes in that.
Yeah,
it might not need to be amended. But again, you start with an objective, and you make it easy to abolish an agency if there's no reason for it, and it doesn't necessarily need a constitutional. It does not need a constitutional amendment for Congress to decide they are not going to appropriate any more money for the agency currently known as the IRS. And if you cut off the funding, then the constitutional amendment can stay there as long as it wants, but obviously the agency is going to disappear if nobody's getting paid.
Now, this is a good way to decentralize government, is it not?
It certainly is, and in fact, it does all of the libertarian proposals on the table. And again, the proposals I'm promoting are shown on my website.
Mm-hmm.
All of them really come under the heading of states' rights, devolving an unwieldy federal government, except for our military. I mean, there are certain unlimited number of enumerated powers that the federal government should be administering, but most of everything needs to move to the states.
And that's a logical way of doing it. And we have 50 different states that are 50 different tax collection organizations. All the money would go to the states, and the states would then take that money after they got their sales tax or state sales tax, take the remainder of it, and send it to the federal government. And that way, the federal government would be beholden to the states. It would, the states would say to the federal government, "Hey, we're going to give you the money, but in turn, maybe we want you to do this like the federal government's doing to the states now." Wouldn't that be a turnaround?
It'd be wonderful because, everything that's going wrong today, I think, really comes out of that federal income tax. If President Wilson had not succeeded in putting it in place, the whole balance of power between federal and state would have changed, would not be as with the negative results that we have today.
Yeah, I think you're right. In his memoirs, President Wilson said, "I have put the power of this great nation into the hands of very few men, and I feel I've done a great disservice to this nation." And that was one of the things he quoted. He felt really bad about what he did, but by that time it was too late. Hey, Rob, thank you so much for being on here. People want to get up with you, they can go to robforcongress.org and read about you, and they can contact you. I think you have your cell phone number on there as well. Is that correct?
You bet.
All right. Thank you so much.
James, thank you so much.
We'll see you next Tuesday morning at 7:15 your time, 6:15 my time. And everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow morning on WPGX Fox 28. Bye-bye, everybody.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guarantee.